for white people more than they do the rest of us.
Remember, we want you to be an activist, and don't take our word for it. Look that shit up. Pulley. All right, I'm gonna play some Biden for y'all. So please, y'all don't throw up.
Now reporting, David Muir.
Good afternoon. We're coming back on the air because President Biden is about to address the nation concerning the historic Supreme Court ruling overturning Roe versus Wade. Let's listen to the president at the White House.
The right so important to so many Americans, but they did it. It's a sad day for the court and for the country. 50 years ago, Roe v. Wade was decided and has been the law of the land since then. This landmark case protected women's right to choose, her right to make intensely personal decisions with her doctor, free from the interference of politics. It reaffirmed basic principles of equality, that women have the power to control their own destiny, and it reinforced a fundamental right of privacy, the right of each of us to choose how to live our lives. Now, with Roe gone, let's be very clear. The health and life of women in this nation are now at risk. As chairman and ranking member of the Senate Judiciary Committee, as vice president and now as president of the United States, I've studied this case carefully. I've overseen more Supreme Court confirmations than anyone today, where this case was always discussed. I believe Roe v. Wade was the correct decision as a matter of constitutional law and application of the fundamental right to privacy and liberty in matters of family and personal autonomy. It was a decision on a complex matter that drew a careful balance between a woman's right to choose earlier in her pregnancy and the state's ability to regulate later in her pregnancy. A decision with broad national consensus that most Americans of faith and backgrounds found acceptable, that have been the law of the land for most of the lifetime of Americans today. And it was a constitutional principle upheld by justices appointed by Democrat and Republican presidents alike.
That's enough. Why does he keep scratching his nose?
Because he needs that coke to stay awake.
Telling you, man. That's what I was thinking. Like that's that. Is it leaking, y'all? Is it leaking? Am I leaking?
But no, man. Look, bro. No, you know what I was thinking about why he was saying that? You know, because we're talking about Roe versus Wade being 50 years old. He was in politics when all this happened. Like, he could probably remember when that ruling happened. And for him to turn around and still be in office when they overturn it.
Oregon and Washington are two of...
I think this one breaks down how it works with the different states. Let me see.
17 states with laws protecting abortions. Now that Roe v. Wade has been overturned, we have been receiving statements from our local legislatures saying they will fight to protect abortion rights here. But as we told you, states' laws can now change on the issue depending on future state bills put into law or voted on by citizens. We want to bring in Ben Gaskins, political science professor at Lewis and Clark College, for his live analysis of this ruling. Ben, thanks for being here. A lot of people wondering what this means for abortion rights access nationwide going forward, including Oregon and Washington down the road, even though it's protected in our states right now.
That's right. And as you said, we will have two separate sets of laws around the country where many states like South Dakota and Alabama, who've moved already to effectively ban abortion from the moment of conception, will be able to enforce those laws, where states like Oregon and Washington will be able to more or less carry on as usual with their abortion laws that are on the books as well. And there's nothing in this ruling that prevents states from maintaining very open abortion laws. I think one of the next big debates will be for things like medicated abortion, where you can get pills that will allow people to have an abortion at home through the mail. This morning, Merrick Garland said that those procedures will be able to continue, that that access to abortion pills will continue nationwide, but many states that are going to put in bans on abortion within their state borders are also attempting to kind of clamp down on the ability to send or receive abortion pills in the mail. So that's going to, I think, be the next area for conflict, especially between the federal government and more restrictive states right now.
Very interesting. Okay, so we want to take a look at Justice Samuel Alito's statement from his opinion. It reads, quote, Roe was egregiously wrong from the start. Its reasoning was exceptionally weak, and the decision has had a damaging consequences. It's time to heed the Constitution and return the issue of abortion to the people's elected representatives. What did you make of his opinion?
Well, this is really the culmination of almost 50 years of conservative legal reasoning that has taken Roe v. Wade as this exemplar of federal overreach of, in their mind, kind of inventing a right out of whole cloth that doesn't exist in the text of the Constitution. And so the whole idea of a right to privacy that Roe v. Wade was grounded on is something that conservative legal theorists have been pushing against, again, for 50 years. And what Alito is saying is really, again, the encapsulation and the victory of that effort to try to roll back the right to privacy as something in the, guaranteed by the Constitution.
I was looking at Twitter before the show. A lot of people on social media concerned about not only this, but Clarence Thomas's statements regarding other cases, regarding same-sex marriage, regarding contraception. How big of a concern should that be at this point?
Well, it seems to be a very big concern, especially for people on the political left, that these the rights to same-sex marriage, in particular contraception, are built on kind of the same legal reasoning that Roe v. Wade was built on, and that a 5-4 majority that is willing to overturn 50 years of precedent for access to abortion would have no problem overturning 7 years of precedent when it comes to the rights of same-sex marriage. So I would not be surprised at all for these kinds of cases on contraception, on states' desire to ban same-sex marriage within their own borders, within their own laws, will make its way to the Supreme Court. And I think.
See, I don't think that y'all understand like the depth of this. Look at the direction that it's going in, because that's what it's going to be. And it's like I said before about how like what people are doing in their bedroom, like me and you don't care about that, but there's people out there that do. So if you're doing something in your bedroom that they don't approve of, they're going to be coming for you on that. You're going to have to move out of that state.
No, that's not true.
You don't see that coming?
No, because I mean, the thing is, because see, you don't realize how, because like you don't see, because now we're talking about same-sex marriages or something, like you don't see heterosexual couples out in the public trying to be seen in certain ways, or like, bro, like, it's when you're able to just live life, do whatever you do and move on, like things will be better for you, bro. They
used to have laws on the books against sodomy. That was against the law to sodomize.
Okay, and then how are they supposed to know you're doing it? How would they ever know that that's what you're doing?
Look in the window. I don't know.
Really?
So I mean, so you're okay with them having a law like that on the books?
I don't care. I'm not into all of that. So, look, when are they gonna change when are they gonna fix this damn fuel crisis? That's what I want to know.
They're not gonna fix the fuel crisis because they're working on shit like taking us back to the Middle Ages.
The Middle Ages. Okay. Well,
they're more concerned with that. They want us to be walking around like in Handmaid's Tale.
Well, I mean, look, y'all have fed the dragon. You expect the dragon not to grow. I mean,
we all gonna be walking around looking like the Amish, talking about over his eye.
Hey, look, say, bro. You know what? I think the world was better at that point.
They
Like,
burned witches. They burned witches at the stake. All you had to do to be a witch was walk by a guy and he get an erection. Witch.
I think there is a very good chance, as Justice Thomas outlined, that at least 5 justices under the court as it stands would be willing to overturn those decisions as well. And so I think this is kind of a marker for where the court is heading when it has 6, strong conservatives on the court and 5 that are definitely willing to overturn precedent in order to implement their judicial vision.
How did former President Trump's term in office ultimately affect this vote? I mean, he obviously appointed
blame it
several
on
of these
Trump.
justices.
There we
and
go.
that's
Here we
one
go.
way.
Yeah, blame it on Trump.
Yeah, you can't
Look,
overstate
make him the
the
worst.
importance of the 2016 election for getting us to where we are today. That by replacing Ruth Bader Ginsburg and Anthony Kennedy with more consistently conservative justices on the issue of privacy and abortion, moved the court away from one where there's more of an institutional approach to this issue, where John Roberts would be unwilling to make a sweeping change to precedent, to one that is much more bold in how it addresses social issues, the right to privacy, and abortion as well. So the court today is just qualitatively different than it was just 6 or 7 years ago. And 6 or 7 years ago, before Trump's term in office, the court would not have made this kind of ruling. But today, there are 5 justices that are clearly willing to do so, and 3 of which come from were nominated by President Trump.
All right. Well, Ben Gaskins, thank you so much for your insight on this historic day. No matter where people stand on this issue, it's a big moment in history for the U.S. And I'm sure we'll be checking in with you again.
Well, it seems like Trump he must be more effective than the rest of them. That's what they're telling me. Trump was way more effective. He's gone, and his decisions, the things he did, it impacts us more than the people who are here now today.
I want to get back now to our top story. The U.S. Supreme Court overturning the Roe v. Wade decision and wiping out the constitutional right to abortion. Our Bloomberg Washington correspondent Joe Matthew and host of Sound On live outside the nation's top court. And Joe, sort of any sense that things are picking up there and getting busier?
Well, they are. I wanted to move closer to the court so you could actually see the size and scale of this crowd that started gathering just before the ruling was even announced, before 10 a.m. Of course, a lot of these people didn't know what the news would be. But if you look behind me, you can see they had signs underway. They had a plan underway, and many of them are organized, both pro-life and pro-choice, represented here in front of the court. You can also see the security barrier behind me that wraps around the Supreme Court. That's been in place since the draft opinion first leaked. There are a good number of Capitol Police officers here as well, just off to the side of our camera. They're here and have been for hours, although their numbers have been building as well, with some concerns about what might happen later today and tonight once nightfall happens. In the meantime, it has been a peaceful but very active protest. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was here to whip up the crowd, at least the pro-choice members of the crowd, a little while earlier, and we suspect that we'll see a few other newsmakers come through here, as a lot of people are just getting their heads around this, and many, when they heard the news, are making their way here to the Supreme Court.
Man, this is what I tell you. They're making such a big deal out of this thing, man. Like, this is, say, bro, y'all don't see how this is like meant to trigger people. Like, listen, like you're triggered by this whole thing.
I am, because I feel like we're going backwards and in incremental steps.
So I mean, like, because I don't know, I just, man. Okay, well, look, I feel sorry for you guys that's being affected by all of this, because it's a shame. I mean, you shouldn't have to deal with all of this, but You know, I guess it just is what it is. I mean, you know, you're allowing people to have control over your life. You know, if you know, I don't know, bro. I'm gonna just let it be. I don't think it's really that.
This affects mothers, sisters, daughters, wives.
I think it affects irresponsible mothers, daughters, and whatever. I mean, I don't see how it bothers anybody who's truly responsible in this world, and people, or even to people who teach their children to be responsible. Like this affects the irresponsible people of our country.
Earlier, you said that it should be exclusions for incest and rape. In the Texas law, there isn't.
Okay. Which, I mean, that's something that they might get around to at some point. I mean, I don't know. I'm gonna just say, I mean, whatever, because I mean, I don't see that that's gonna happen for me and anybody that's close to me. I'm not gonna wait for the government to handle that. I'm gonna handle that.
Not everybody's gonna have means like that.
Well, I don't understand. Everybody's not gonna have means.
Everybody don't have the means like that. What you're saying is, I'll just take care of it. But you have the means to do that. Not everybody do. Most people don't.
Okay. So what is that? What does that tell you? Like, if this happened to you and you didn't have the resources, I mean, because like I said, outside of incest or rape, and a female that you're dealing with gets pregnant, what do you suggest? She should travel to New York so she can get an abortion?
I mean, what I'm saying is your choices, you're going to be more and more limited, and the least amount of resources you have, you're going to be more and more limited.
Well, I mean, with those, see, the thing with having too many choices allows you to make bad mistakes. Like, I mean, you're ruining your body. Like, instead of like we need to get to a point where women are not so easy to just look. Yeah, sex is great, but at the same time, if you're not ready for, like, you need to make sure, look, you not only do you take birth control, but make sure he wearing a condom. Like, look, double protect yourself. Like, bro, like, I don't get, like, people whining and crying. I see a woman on the thing crying, barely can talk because of all this. But and then, I mean, the part when they talking about the privacy, bro, like, they don't look. You have given up all your privacy already since 2001.
All right, so joining us now.
I'm gonna play this one. Maybe it'll break it down. Let's see.
Does anybody remember the Patriot Act?
The Patriot Act?
Yeah.
I don't remember what that one entailed because they always have those names like that.
Was that
after 9/11?
Yeah.
And it was okay. Yeah, it's starting to come to me. It's the one where it was okay to spy on American citizens, for the safety of the government or some shit like that.
Yeah. So what about that?
That's like I say, that's like saying what about white people getting killed by cops? Like, how does that?
It's not. No, it's not. It's bringing reality to the things that you're crying about already exist. Like, you're whining about something that already, like, look, I mean, you saying that you can't have an abortion. Okay, all right. That means that you've already given your rights up to these people or this government. Like, I mean, you are subject to their laws, their rules, that whatever they tell you to do, you better do it, or
So how would it
or
work
else.
in the tribes with this topic?
With this topic, we're self-governed, and if we make a decision that, I mean, we live with those type of decisions. We're not putting ourselves in a position where we're just getting pregnant by somebody we don't want a child with.
Yeah. So, but if you are in a situation like that, then what would be the process?
We don't do it. That's the thing. Like, it doesn't happen.
Everybody is completely mature and responsible, and they don't make babies that they didn't intend to make.
Yeah.
Dive on the legal implications. CBS 8's Chris Crow.
Yeah, Chris, you spoke to a constitutional lawyer to break this all down. What did he have to say?
Yeah, I mean, it's important to point out that today's decision, what happened with the Supreme Court, did not make abortion illegal. It simply just gave the states the right to decide that. And when we talked to Dan Eaton, we really wanted to break down not only that, but the impacts, not just for today, but moving forward.
As a result of the majority opinion, there is no federal constitutional right of a woman to terminate her pregnancy.
And so we want to go back to that map that you just saw with Skylar Henry. 26 states that are expected to outlaw abortion. Yellow means they have trigger laws in place. The orange are certain to ban it based on pre-Roe laws or statements from lawmakers. And the others with those stripes are likely to implement bans based on what we know with this state's politics. Now, we know the trigger law in Texas says that all abortions will be banned from fertilization. No exceptions for survivors of rape or incest. Exceptions would be given to save pregnant patients' lives. Now, doctors who perform abortions could face life in prison, fines up to $100,000. However, the Texas AG did say it would not go into effect today or even 30 days from today. So they're still working on that timeline. Here's Eaton on those states that don't have something in place yet, but are likely to.
You're going to see a great deal of action very, very quickly in these red states, in these conservative states. And you are going to see an awful lot of action also in blue states, including in California, the other way.
Yeah, California lawmakers are working to strengthen our status as a sanctuary state. They approved a bill that would protect abortion providers and patients from legal action launched in other states. And we are very likely to see Governor Gavin Newsom sign that. It just depends on when, whether that's going to be today or at a later date.
He is expected to speak at 1 o'clock today. So, of course, we will.
This also, there's a fundamental thing that this is doing. It has to do with the sanctity of the unity of the United States. You know what I'm saying? When you got states pulling in one direction and states pulling in another direction and trying to cover for other states and, all of this, that's issues. You know what I'm saying? That's drama. You know what I'm saying? That's what happened when you led to the Civil War, when you bleed in Kansas and all of that shit, slave state, non-slave state. So now we're going to have abortion state, non-abortion state.
Mm-hmm. But look, this is a slow unwind of the United States for what people know of it, because it's really dead. The United States is dead. It's not even a real country. I mean, as far as like a true government respected by the rest of the world, it just isn't. And this is like an unwind of things that it did so that people can be prepared to accept each state to run on its own, for you to have mainly just local government until there's something greater comes around. But
yeah, I can't stay up too late. I gotta work a double tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm going back to work tomorrow myself. So
let me play this.
To put a piece of fabric on their faces temporarily to save people's lives, to stop the spread of a lethal virus. They couldn't be bothered with that. They argued that was too invasive, that it was a violation of their bodily autonomy. Oh, it was a violation of their liberties. Take a look at what happens to a woman's body, both during pregnancy and during childbirth. And try to compare that to the very easy action of putting a mask on to protect people from dying due to a contagious virus. Nah, these people, they were never, ever sincere about wanting to protect life. They watch us die day in and day out based on their policies, based on their refusals to take care of the American people when they're down on their luck. How many people die of poverty in this country? How many Republican lawmakers have fought aggressively to cut down whatever is left of our measly, minuscule social spending programs, which overwhelmingly help children living in poverty? And then they turn around and they tell us, no, we want to control women's bodies because we care about lives. They never have cared about lives. This is really about power and control. And if you look at the roots of the anti-choice movement in this country, you will learn that it was never, ever about protecting lives. It was all about ensuring all of these right-wing organizations, all of these religious leaders came together to force their ideology upon all of us. And that we're dealing with the consequences today. They couldn't be bothered to put a piece of fabric on their faces temporarily.
What you think about that?
Hot air. I mean, she didn't really say much to me. I mean, she started with one thing and then like jumped to something else. I mean, what is her real point? What is she trying to?
Yeah.
What is her real argument? What is she really arguing about? Mask, or is she the whole idea about women's rights? I mean, what is she arguing?
Yeah, she was jumping around. She's emotional. Let me play this.
Purpose is the 14th Amendment. And the book explains that.
Do you accept that?
That's the law of the land. I accept the law of the land, Senator. Yes.
Is Roe a super precedent?
How would you define super precedent? And I'm answering a lot of questions about Roe, which I think indicates that Roe doesn't fall in that category. And scholars across the spectrum say that doesn't mean that Roe should be overruled. But descriptively, it does mean that it's not a case that everyone has accepted and doesn't call for its overruling.
As a judge, it is an important precedent of the Supreme Court. By it, I mean Roe v. Wade and Planned Parenthood versus Casey. Been reaffirmed many times. Casey is precedent on precedent, which itself is an important factor.
Senator, as the book explains, the Supreme Court of the United States has held in Roe versus Wade that a fetus is not a person for purposes of the 14th Amendment. And the book explains that.
Do you accept that?
That's the law of the land. I accept the law of the land, Senator. Yes.
Is Roe a super precedent?
How would you define super precedent? And I'm answering a lot of questions about Roe, which I think indicates that Roe doesn't fall in that category. And scholars across the spectrum say that doesn't mean that Roe should be overruled. But descriptively, it does mean that it's not a case that everyone has accepted and doesn't call for its overruling.
So, in case y'all didn't catch on, that was, each time those three got confirmed, those specific question of Roe versus Wade came up, and that was their answers. So basically, they were saying, Roe versus Wade, it's cool. But all three of them voted for overturn Roe versus Wade.
Well, I mean, I'm gonna tell you. I mean, there's gonna be irresponsible women that's gonna end up in those abortion states, and I mean, that's just kind of people who are championing this whole thing, because I mean, first of all, like, it shouldn't bother the average person, the person who is not out here making these, you know what I'm saying, like, okay, you got friends, you know that's irresponsible, and you're like, oh girl, I feel sorry for you because I know you can't do no better than what you've been doing, and you know, this is really gonna affect your life because you just ain't shit and you don't make good decisions.
We shouldn't be ruled by religious dogma. Like, period. What happened to the separation of church and state?
It's not religious dogma, but where does the original laws even come from? Like, bro, like, come on, man. Like,
where does it end? Where's it gonna stop? Whatever the evangelicals want. No, we should not be ruled by freaking religious dogma. That's what it is.
but you can do anything. So is there anything such as right or wrong?
Well, we talk about that all the time. That's perspective.
Okay, so when you get that into a massive, like to the masses that looking at it that way, because you know everybody can't handle that perspective. Because I mean, you know, that's gonna send the world into a whirlwind just by itself. You know, oh, there's no right, there's no wrong. Oh, I can just shoot, I can plunder and pillage and do whatever and shoot. I mean, who's the judge? Who's to say I'm right or who's to say I'm wrong? Or who's the, you know, like just shut up and accept every little thing that I do, because guess what? There's no right, there's no wrong. Where's it gonna end?
And where's it going to end with the direction that they're going in? Let me read this. It says, in future cases, we should reconsider all of the court's substantive due process precedents, including Griswold, Lawrence, and Obergefell. That's Clarence Thomas. This is a caption underneath. It says, if you want a glimpse of the right-wing Supreme Court majority might be willing to go now that Roe v. Wade has become overturned, look no further than the words of Justice Clarence Thomas himself. In a concurrent appearance to the court's decision on Dobbs v. Jackson, Women's Health Organization, Thomas said that the court, having now upended nearly 50 years of established abortion rights in the U.S., should also reconsider all of the court's substantive due process precedents, including Griswold, Lawrence, and Obergefell. In those cases sound unfamiliar to you, Griswold was a landmark 1965 case protecting the right to contraceptives. Lawrence was a landmark 2003 case that ruled the criminal punishment for sodomy between consenting adults was unconstitutional. And Obergefell was a landmark 2015 case that guaranteed same-sex couples the right to marry. So, no same-sex marriage, no sodomy between consenting adults, and no right to contraceptives. So not only can they not, you know what I'm saying, you can't get an abortion, but you're not going to be able to get no condoms either, or IUDs or none of that.
Well, look, let me ask this, because like these state representatives are made up of from the state. These are the people who fill up our House of Representatives, our Congress. Why, you know, why, how is it that, you know, it's at some point, like now, these people of these different states that make up our government, that make up the federal government, now can't make the decisions within their own state now? Like, I mean, these are the same people. Like, I mean, I'm just not, because I mean, nobody made it illegal to have an abortion. It's just up to the state to decide if that's what they're going to do in that state.
Therefore, most of the states are choosing to make abortion illegal.
Okay, so which means that that's a majority of our country. If the majority of the states means that's the majority of our country that believes that there's a problem with abortions. Like, people are overusing it. Like, something's wrong here.
Or you could have politicized a topic, energize the public, brainwash an uneducated public, and led them to, do something that you wanted them to do that you wouldn't have been able to get them to do otherwise. If they were thinking of themselves, thinking for themselves.
Okay, well, I mean, if if it would live was, if we had a public that, did their thinking for themselves, we wouldn't need the government in the first place, right?
Well, I'm a fan of limited government. I think just like war, like protection and collecting taxes. More than that, I don't think you need them. Stepping in for to handle disputes.
You don't really need the government for that. You have a police force, you have somebody within your community to be over a good police force or something that will, help with that. So it could be somebody that you pick out of your own peers. You know what I'm saying? Somebody within your own community that can do that.
Yeah, but you can't not if those disputes was between different communities. Like, let's say it was a state versus another state, region versus another region.
Well, now if they're intruding into your state, doing things that they shouldn't, you pop a cap in their ass. If they make it to the other side of the line, they safe. If they don't, then dig a hole for them.
That's not an environment that you really want to live in. That's a war time, all the time environment. How do you do trade? How do you have a functioning society under circumstances like those?
Well, bro, honestly, like we're kind of live in that day to day. We don't look at it the same. May not see it the same way, but it's not state against state as far as I can see. But shoot, the state against citizens is a war going on every day. Bro, that's war all the time that people just kind of have been desensitized to, just accept it as just this is what it is. It's not really different, bro. Like, that's the part that I think that, like, I want to get across more than anything is that, like, okay, you still got the right to do it. If okay, it might cost you more to get across the country to try to get to, the promised land, the freedom land, to be able to go just do this whole, this act, go have an abortion somewhere. But it's not like you can't get it done. There's people that's going to be like, shoot, that's where they bread and butter going to be. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Just woke up.
Mad interesting to me. I was about to go to sleep and this just woke me up.